Hello, and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Halecko. Say hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week, we will be continuing our Sports Night Marathon with the second 4 episodes of the first season, and we'll be talking about the West Wing episode, What Kind of Day Has It Been? And the West Wing Weekly episode about it. But first, Dancing with the Stars started, last night when you're listening to this, just a little bit earlier tonight when we're recording it. And there was a little more drama than expected there amongst the sequins. So what did you think of this first episode, Catherine? I guess we'll talk about it generally first, and then we'll get to the unpleasantness.
I enjoyed it, actually, most of it. I thought that the opening number was kind of fun when they were up on top of the Griffith Observatory.
Yes.
And it really emphasized how large of a company it is.
Yeah.
You know, with all the pros and all the backup dancers or whatever they're called.
True.
But I liked that it wasn't like so huge and time consuming. You know, I mean, it was,
right.
It felt the right length, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, a lot of the stars dances were fun and it's kind of nice in these early days. They have so many dances to get to. They can't do a lot of extra
Yes.
BS. So it's just mostly dancing, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And there were a few that were good. There were a few that were not good.
Yeah.
There were a few that weren't that great, but they were still fun to watch.
Right.
So yeah, I thought it was entertaining.
I felt like there was a greater swath of competitors this time who just were at a very, very basic level.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nobody who was just a joke. You know, there was no, like, the jockey one year who just, all he could do was wiggle his butt. That was, like, the extent of his talent. And Karina just danced around him. Or Geraldo, oh, my gosh, last season. There's nobody, or Paula Dean, there's nobody who's just kind of here for a joke. They all seem to be, you know, here in the right frame of mind, which I appreciate. And, you know, starting out very slow. And I also appreciated that the scores were mostly modest, you know, and, which is what they should be right now. I mean, obviously, Lori is already at a completely different level than everybody else, but which sometimes institutes a backlash. But she is so adorable.
Right. I mean, how could you not?
and that I hope people will just say, I just enjoy watching her. She seemed to be so jazzed to have that fringe on.
Right.
She just looked so excited.
And they didn't make her straighten her hair.
And they did not. And they did not make her stop being an enthusiastic 16-year-old. So I support that. I hope they keep that up. The less they manage her, the better. She's just delightful to watch in her natural state.
Right.
And Val seems to be having a good time too. So that's good. You know, so most of them were just sort of, well, okay, that was a thing that happened. That was a dance.
I was a little surprised at Jake T. Austin.
In which way were you surprised about him?
Well, I mean, he's like a young guy. Like, could he not have a little more game?
Yeah, I think he's this season's Misha. It's like, why is he here?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he's here because he wants to be. He looks like he's here because somebody told him it would be a good idea. And unless you can at least act like you want to be there. You're an actor, dude. Just don't. You know, don't put yourself through it. Don't put us through it. What freaked me out about him even more, however, is that, all right, this is the little kid from Wizards of Waverly Place. Right. And he is the same age as Jenna, his partner, and Whitney and Lindsay are all the same age as the little kid from the Wizards of Waverly Place. I just aged another 10 years. I started looking these people's ages up on the internet, and I really wish I had not. So, yeah, I think he's not going to be too long for the run.
No.
And other than that, though, I thought it was a perfectly acceptable first episode. Nobody really embarrassed themselves other than, you know, Lori stood out, obviously, but I think I think also the race car driver did pretty good. And I loved Sharna's dress, even though it looked like something you would wear to a wedding. And I regret the fact that they had to make him in the same color.
Yeah, which they also did with Maureen McCormick.
Yes, that
like
was
this matching
Maureen
suit.
McCormick. Oh, Maureen McCormick. I get the feeling she doesn't get out much. She just looked like somebody remembered I used to be famous and I get to come on TV. Oh man, that aged me an additional 10 years right there.
When she said she was 60 years old. Like,
what? Yeah, and she just seems so. I guess I don't want to think of somebody so that I remember from my youth as being a young person being the designated old person on this show. Yeah. I thought Mary Lou Henner would have a little more game right off the bat. She looked like she was thinking pretty hard as she was doing it. And she also just needs to calm down.
Yeah, she was a little over the top. But she's got some great legs.
Yeah, if she's not really that much of a flake, flake in real life, then then she needs to stop. And if she is that much of a flake, they need to stop steering into it.
Right.
She's getting like the Marla Maples cut from last season. And I think she's got more ability and more on the ball than that. So find another storyline for Mary Lou, please.
Right.
That one's going to get old really quickly. Did anybody else particularly stand out to you? Positive. I'm glad they got Ice Baby out of the way right away.
But that one was it was fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. It was not a cha-cha.
No,
any means, but it was fun to watch.
It was The Running Man, among other things. But yeah, it was fun to watch.
You could get away with that the first week in ways you cannot later on. Similarly, Jana is the way you say your name.
Yeah, the one from One Tree Hill.
And Gleb's thing that they did was not anything that I would call a Viennese waltz. But what the heck? And Tara, is that?
Yes, the one from
pronouncing their names.
The one from Little Women.
Yeah, not so much dancing there. Lots of misdirection on the behalf of Sasha, and I enjoy watching Sasha dance and jump around and look enthusiastic. So that'll be fine.
Right.
But I wish she had danced a little bit more. So,
and I wasn't a fan of the opening lip sync thing that they did with her.
I agree.
Because it was so obvious,
Was that just like a time fill? So that they
had
to do this dancing? I don't know.
Right,
I'm very interested to see where that goes. Amber Rose made no impression on me really at all, other than the fact that she is an interesting physical specimen.
Well, and I thought that, she said, like, being a princess, it's not me. And then Julianne said, you are a princess. And I was like, no, she's really not. And she doesn't want to be, though. I mean, when she's talking about princess, she means like, a girly, fluffy, whatever. That's not my style. And that's okay. Like, let's not try to make her be that if that's not her. And let's try to not make her feel bad for... Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was weird.
The people in charge of support in the costuming room going to have their work cut out. I mean, they had their challenges with Bindi, and they're looking at this girl now going, oh, come on.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Really? So, moving on to Ryan and what happened there.
Yes, Ryan
I thought
Lochte.
He wasn't bad in the dancing. Yeah, I thought his dancing was fine. I thought he did okay. He seems like not the, let's see, what do we say? There's no nice way to say it.
I know where you're going.
Not the brightest bulb.
Right.
But, and I mean, I think this has been fairly well established. Didn't he have a reality show after the last Olympics that pretty much left everybody with that conclusion? Which doesn't give him carte blanche to do stupid things, but at the same time...
Well, I mean, he was very unprepared to deal with anything that wasn't rehearsed and planned and scripted. And when that happened, he was like deer in headlights. Yeah,
absolutely. And I just, I've been trying to figure out whether the Dancing with the Stars producers, who are often very, very manipulative, could be so diabolical as to stage something like that so that the Olympian stays for a few weeks before people vote him off, because I felt sorry for him. I threw him a few votes to protest the protest.
Okay.
But I feel that the people on stage looked truly freaked out and not staged freaked out.
Right.
And it did not seem, the way there were bodies rushing past the camera, it did not seem like something that could have been staged.
Right.
Although how do those people get in? I guess they had their Lochte with the slash through it t-shirts underneath something.
Oh, see, I didn't even see. The only thing the only thing I saw was,
that's
Carrie. You saw that somewhere else. Okay.
Carrie Ann
just saying,
excuse me. And I thought she just wanted to be able to speak, but I guess there's people rushing this. Yeah, I've had like a little extra time that you didn't have to like be on the message boards and find out the whole story. There's something up on Entertainment Weekly now, a blog post about it. And apparently there was one guy stormed the stage and threw something at Ryan, and then the security got him, and then somebody else stormed the stage. And meanwhile, there was a bunch of women who were with these guys who were chanting liar in the audience. And Derek apparently was involved in getting them out of the room. And meanwhile, the rest of the audience was chanting in favor of him. And it seems just a little bit of theater there. Yeah. If they had staged it, they would have shown all that stuff. It really did seem like everybody this is not a normal thing.
No.
But out of all the stuff that's going on in the world,
right,
that is going to be your cause to go onto a dancing show and storm the stage and throw something at a guy who told a lie and looks really dumb about it.
Right. Yeah.
Pick your causes, people. You know?
Right.
This is really not worth the effort.
As we say in the parenting world, pick your battles. Come on, guys. Your battles.
This is a clear example of pick your battles. If you don't think he should be on the show, don't vote for him. Write nasty things on Twitter.
Exactly.
There are channels for that sort of thing. But that just seems like a whole level of unnecessary.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this develops, if it's going to continue to be a thing or what, if it gets him sympathy and he stays on a little bit longer, on how he handles this now on top of everything else. If he,
Right. And how much of a voting base did he have before this?
I would have thought not much.
Right. And maybe it'll give him a little bump, but I wouldn't think for very long.
I wouldn't think for very long either. It'll depend how they spin it and how he does. But I see no evidence that he has the capacity to capitalize on something.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just a soul moving through life, man. So let's see what happens. I mean, good luck, Cheryl.
Yeah.
I think she handled everything very well tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Bergeron, of course, continues to be a national treasure.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyway, next week they are going to have 2 episodes of this thing already.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they said on the show that they were going to have a show on Monday and then a results show on Tuesday, which is the way it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good because you're getting voted off based on the dance you did that week as opposed to the dance you did the week before.
Oh, right. It's less confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be the scores from this week and next week because they didn't eliminate anybody tonight.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday, the first person will get sent home. I don't know if they're going to do that the whole season. I would love for them to, but unless ABC is having a really hard time filling its real estate, it doesn't really want to give that much time to Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. But because we also will be watching the Emmys Sunday night and doing our next round 2 about those, we will still release our round 2 on Tuesday morning, and then we'll maybe add a little something to our blog about the results Tuesday night. Later on in the season, if they do this, we may have to rearrange our timing. But Anyway, I thought it was a good start. It
Yeah.
makes me want to watch more. It makes me want to go on message boards and read what people said and go on Twitter and all sorts of things that,
yes,
procrastinate.
very important business.
Yes, yes. So now moving on to our Sports Night Marathon, which we started last week. And we are now on the second 4 episodes of season 1, which I should have written. Okay, we had
Mary Pat Shelby,
the head coach dinner in the Morning Mail.
Dear Louise, and then Thespis.
I thought this was a particularly good foursome of episodes. This seemed to be the show kind of hitting its stride, and certainly Josh Molina hitting his. I think Jeremy really settles in these. And you got a little bit of serious content, and you got a little bit of silly content. You got some relationship building, and ending on that very silly Thespis one. So, what did you think of these 4?
Yeah, I thought that they were fun to watch. Well, the first 2, are a lot more serious, and those are harder because they deal with sexual assault and I thought that it was very, I don't know. I mean, I've never experienced it personally, but I felt like it was pretty true to what how someone might react in terms of how Natalie felt.
Right.
She didn't want to be treated differently, but yet, it wasn't easy for her to just pretend like nothing had happened.
Right.
I wasn't sure how they, when Dana first said, when Dana basically first traded away Natalie's, voice, I thought, have you asked her what she wants to do here? So, and she really hadn't.
I don't think she ever really did she?
Yeah, and
even
then
when they switched later, she didn't really.
Right. So I thought that was a little strange. But the response of Jeremy, of Joshua Molina's character, is just so
I love
wonderful.
that. I mean, I knew what was coming, but it just hit me so much again, where they have this little conversation about her wrist, and it seems like it's just kind of lighthearted. And then when they're in that meeting and Isaac starts talking, you see him kind of in soft focus on the background, figure it out,
and just
ask those questions, and then bolt out of there. I thought that was really, really effective and affecting.
Yes. I agree.
And then he gets so obsessed with trying to protect her in the next episode.
He stops sleeping.
Figuring out what her password is by just trying every possible combination. And he stops sleeping. And the bit at the end where he said he wants to take her out to dinner, and he's asking Dan where he should go. And Dan finally ends up saying, find a place that you like. And so at the end, we see Jeremy has set up like a little picnic by Natalie's desk and fallen asleep. And she's at first very defensive, and then realizes that it's because he likes her. And
right.
And it's just a really, really sweet gesture. That was a nice... I guess it's the kind of the ending to that incident. I don't think we ever hear any more about it that I can remember right now. But he's so adorable.
Yes.
In that one particularly, and the whole thing with Casey and Gordon and the coach, and starting up the bantering between Casey and Gordon,
which continues.
Part of Sports Night, but it does continue, yes.
Right.
And then Dear Louise is the one where Jeremy is writing a letter to his sister, who, as you recall, I think it was on the West Wing Weekly, they were talking about how Marlee Matlin got the part of Joey Lucas on the West Wing, and apparently she had first approached Aaron Sorkin about being Louise, who is hearing impaired. So that never happened, but that adds a nice little bit of trivia to this episode.
Right, because they did talk about that on the West Wing Weekly podcast.
Right. But this one just has a lot of fun stuff. The writer's block bit with Dan where Natalie keeps just throwing water at him to try to get him out of it. And I think the last time she does it was not planned. I think that was she just did that. Sabrina Lloyd just did that, which is why everybody is laughing. And this is one of those ones that you watch the episode after you've watched it before and go, oh, this is the one where this thing happens.
Right.
So the boogie shoes is very memorable. Just very fun.
Yeah.
And then in Thespis, we have the very unfortunate, I think, thing of Dana thinking that thawing a turkey in the lighting grid is a good idea. This is the continuation of, Sorkin women who are extremely capable in one area and just completely inept at life.
Right.
And it's not his best look.
No. She's a very smart person, which has been established.
By her nervousness at her mother coming over, I completely understand. But how you made the leap that in order to find out how long it will take to thaw a turkey, you should put it in the lighting grid.
Yeah.
That's a leap I don't understand. Although it does pay off in the joke of it falling on the desk at just the right time.
Right.
Even so, come on.
I know.
And then we have the little bit of drama with Isaac's daughter.
Which also Dana steps in it by saying, oh, this happened to my sister-in-law and she was fine. Oh, what about the baby? Well, they lost the baby. Come on.
Need to think a little ahead before you offer that. I mean, I know she wanted to comfort him about his daughter, but
not a good way to do that.
I did like the way, though, that the theme of doing things to impress your mother carried through to that why was she cleaning when she was that pregnant? And it's because she wanted the house to be clean for her mother.
Right.
That was a nice little follow through.
Even though it could have, it's more likely she was nesting, right?
Yeah, I was defensive. Well, I wasn't defensive about my mother in quite that way, but I can see all that being the case. So that was a fun one. And then, we're on Thespis.
That's Thespis, that's all.
Yes, and I really, it was interesting to do our transition from Sports Night into West Wing, both Aaron Sorkin projects. I was interested that in this week we happened to get 2 episodes that had the young guy goes in for a hug and old guy says, "What are you doing?" I didn't mean that. So apparently there's a video on YouTube of Sorkinisms where it shows the same thing happening in more than one Sorkin project, the same very close line of dialogue. I wonder if this one is in there. I didn't watch it all the way through, but that's
because there's Josh and Leo on the West Wing, and there's Casey and Isaac in Thespis. That's funny.
Yeah. So, all right. So anything
West
else you want to say about those Sports Night episodes? You're still enjoying it?
Yeah, I am. It's fun. It's of its time in many ways.
Yes, that is true.
But it still really holds up well too.
Yeah. Good acting and funny writing, and you can dismiss the part that's not. I love that Jeremy is getting into his full nerdery of knowing things. That's just really odd random facts like Thespis. The whole Thespis thing was predictable but funny. Nicely done, and especially the payoff at the end where what is it? Kathy Lee Gifford fell into something, and Thespis left the building. All right, moving on to West Wing there, since now that I've blown my transition. We watched the final episode of season 1, which is called What Kind of Day Has It Been? And as was mentioned on the West Wing Weekly podcast, that is a title that Aaron Sorkin has used on all of his TV shows for one episode or another. Mm-hmm. So we will be seeing it again in Sports Night in not too long. Mm-hmm. But...
and this is the season finale of the first season.
This was the first episode that I ever saw because I had been aware of the show. I had just not gotten to it. And then I heard that there was going to be maybe after, I don't know, I think I think it was a time when spoilers weren't as big a deal. Yeah. And so you would read the things that were going to come up. They would put out a press release of what was going to happen in an episode.
Because you couldn't, if you missed it the first time.
There was a time when TV Guide would say everything that was going to happen in an episode.
Well, and because you couldn't watch it later. I mean, you had to see it the first time.
You had to know, hey, this is the one where somebody's going to take a shot at the president. Right. And you would say, wow, I want to see how West Wing handles that. Mm-hmm. So you would go see it. Today, if that sort of thing got out, people would be apoplectic.
All mad at you. That's right.
So, although if you watched this whole season and didn't know that at some point somebody was going to take a shot at the president, you weren't paying attention.
Well, I will say that I didn't know if it would be the president or Zoe.
Yeah. Well,
and in this case, she was there. So, yeah.
She was there. So, yes, at this point, we don't really know who was shot at, who was shot.
Right. Who's hurt, really who's
what happened. We knew
alive or anything.
Gina was right about it being like 15-year-old skinheads, but at least that was what seemed to be there in the crowd, was a young guy from a neo-Nazi casting call. So
yes.
Yeah. But I remembered that the episode was good, and I remembered how it ended and that it launches into the season 2 beginning, which is awesome. But I didn't remember how fun this episode was, that we had the thing at the beginning. I mean, having something happen at the beginning and then saying 12 hours earlier or whatever is a TV trope.
Yes.
But I liked the fact that we got kind of a different view of it at the beginning than we did at the end. Partly because things made sense to us that didn't make sense at the beginning, and partly because the camera was at a different angle or we were following different people. That was kind of nice. And everything that went in between was just very well done and very enjoyable. And then heck of a dramatic ending.
Yes. Well, and just, building throughout with, so much. You had the pilot that was shot down over Iraq. You had the space shuttle that was having problems. And then you had Gina, I see something. So something was going down.
Yeah. And so, all through the episode, you knew you were working your way back to that scene.
Right.
And what was going to happen. And back in the old days, children, when you had a cliffhanger like that, you had to wait like 2 or 3 months to find out what happened. Back when we're not able to watch it all on Netflix or just, put it all on our DVR and then be watching it just as the new season started. Right. So that was a long summer.
Yes, I bet it was.
And I think as I said, this is the first episode I watched, and I don't remember how I went back and got the original ones. If it was later on, I got the DVRs. It might have been when I got the CDs. Or if it was rerun during the summer, which is also a thing that used to happen. Remember when there were reruns during the summer?
Man. I bet that is how you got it.
I bet that is. That might have been how I did it. Or, there was a time when it was on Bravo. All the reruns were on Bravo. And I might have watched it there. But at some point, I caught up with that first season.
Right.
But this one got me hooked. Totally.
Yeah,
so
understandably.
And the West Wing Weekly episode that went with this, which y'all should listen to if you have not yet, they had Tim Matheson come on and talk about his character of Hoynes.
Vice President Hoynes, yes.
Vice President Hoynes. And it's, I had already watched a little bit of next season's just because I couldn't not keep going. And I wish they had saved him for that one. Because I think he has
interesting. Okay.
Interesting. At least one interesting scene. But it was good. It was interesting to hear him talking about it, and interesting to hear their take on it, as always.
He sounded like a politician.
He really did. Yes.
I don't know if it's his voice or his demeanor or what, but he really sounds like he could be the actual vice president.
Totally does.
Not just playing one on TV.
That's right. So, we don't have that much reason to like Hoynes thus far, and there continues to be not that much. So,
except for the whole Alcoholics Anonymous piece of it.
That piece was very nice, right. And he mentioned that also. But so now next week, because as mentioned previously, we are going to be talking about the Emmys, which are this coming Sunday. We are going to take a week off from the West Wing. It's a good place to take a break because we're at the end of the first season. Also, the opening of the second season is a 2-parter. So we're going to give everybody 2 weeks to watch those 2 hours, although you will devour them in once because they are really terrific.
Right.
But anyway, so next week we will not talk about the West Wing. We will talk about Sports Night. We will talk about the Emmys, and we will talk about the Monday night episode of Dancing with the Stars. So for today, that is going to be it for our round 2. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terry.
Bye, everybody.